when we look back at, okay, what the A's accomplished in 2002, and then from a bigger standpoint as well, but in the movie, it focuses on that season, they did not win the World Series. So this isn't like a lot of sports movies where you win the championship, the Super Bowl, whatever it is, the gold medal, that's what it's about. That wasn't the standard. That wasn't necessarily what they had to do to prove that, hey, this approach works. Our willingness to think differently works. And to what we talked about earlier, 20 games in a row is a big deal. And at that time was definitely the American League record. And since then, I think 22 wins has been accomplished by the Guardians. But, but that was huge for them. And in some ways, of course, Billy Beane wanted to win the World Series. But to make the big change, to make the switch, to think differently, it worked. They did it with a small budget. And then the Boston Red Sox, that was like a slip. The Red Sox, they realized, hey, let's do this. They wanted Billy Beane. They didn't get him. But 2 years later, they end up winning the World Series and went on to win 4 World Series, using essentially the same approach as the A's. And so it did work. And then the Cubs from there. So it's a fascinating sports story. And I always love in sports when coaches, managers, ownership to say, hey, we don't have to do it the same way. We can do things differently. We can approach this differently. And
adapt or die. That's what he says in the movie. It's like, if you don't have the means to do it the same way, then it forces you to think differently. I think in my life, I don't have the means to try and live a life successfully the way that everybody else does. Whether that's physical means or financial means or fill in the blank. My wife thinks I'm handsome, but I don't have the looks to be wildly successful. If that's the case, I'm essentially trying to use this like credit card on life to try and keep up with everybody else instead of thinking wildly different. So I dove into the deep end right away.
I like that.
I mean, to think differently in terms of sabermetrics is a beautiful thing because you can look at it and see something. When we try to think differently in our lives, it takes a lot of faith to expect a different outcome, right? Than what we could normally expect and measure based off of what we've done before, what we've seen before, right?